Hey guys, we are continuing the reading of the lost books of the Bible. So we are going to be reading the Gospel of Peter today. And it's not very long. It's not as short as Susanna, but it's not very long. Okay, so the Gospel of Peter, following translation, has been committed to the public domain and may be freely copied. We read this in every one. I don't even think it's worth continuing. Okay, but let's do, for some reflections on the meaning and significance of Peter's Gospel for us today, see my book. This is Mark M. Madison's book, The Gospel of Peter, Revisiting Jesus' Death and Resurrection. So what does it say about Peter in this little Amazon description? Okay. According to the canonical Gospels, Jesus emerged alive from Joseph's tomb after a brutal and torturous death. However, none of them actually describes what that may have looked like or what may have been happening in the spiritual realm between his death and resurrection, where the other Gospels are silent and other claims to fill in the gaps. In the winter of 1886 to 87, French archaeologists found a Greek copy of the Gospel of Peter in Egypt. Originally written in Syria late in the 2nd century, this Gospel narrates shocking and spectacular events never before imagined. But why? And what does it all mean? Though it's a straightforward narrative, nevertheless, this ancient passion account raises more questions than answers for today's readers. This volume provides not only 2 translations, but the first ever illustrated Greek-English interlinear, reproducing every page in vivid detail. Okay. The Gospel of Peter. Dig in. Okay, Pilate and Herod. But of the Jews, no one washed the hands, neither Herod nor of his judges. And when they didn't want to wash, Pilate stood up. And then Herod the king, commanding the Lord be brought, said to him, "Do whatever I commanded you to do to him." Joseph requests Jesus' body. And Joseph stood there, the friend of Pilate and the Lord, and seeing that they were about to crucify him, he went to Pilate and asked for the body of the Lord for burial. And Pilate, having sent to Herod, asked him for the body. And Herod said, "Brother Pilate, even if someone hadn't asked for him, we would have buried him, since also Sabbath is beginning, because it's written in the law, the sun shouldn't set on one who's been killed." The Lord is tortured and mocked. And he handed him over to the people before the first day of the festival of the unleavened bread. And those having taken the Lord were running, pushing him and saying, "Let's drag the Son of God, having authority over him." And they were clothing him with purple and sat him on the seat of judgment, saying, "Judge justly, King of Israel." And one of them brought a thorn crown and placed it on the Lord's head. And other bystanders were spitting in his face, and others slapped his cheeks. Others were piercing him with a reed, and some were scourging him, saying, "With this honor, let's honor the Son of God." The Lord is crucified. And they brought 2 wrongdoers and crucified the Lord in the middle of them. But he was silent, as if having no pain. And when they set up the cross, they wrote that, "This is the King of Israel." And having laid the clothes in front of him, they divided them and cast lots for them. But one of those wrongdoers rebuked them, saying, "We, because of the wrong that we did, are suffering this way. But this one, having become Savior of humanity, what wrong has he done to you?" And they were angry at him. They commanded that the legs not be broken, so that he might die tortured. The Lord dies. And it was midday, and darkness held fast over all Judea. And they were troubled and distressed, lest the sun set. Since he was still living, it's written to them, the sun shouldn't set on one who's been killed. And one of them said, "Give him bile with sour wine to drink." And having mixed it, they gave it to him to drink. And they fulfilled all things and accumulated the sins on their head. And many were going around with lanterns, thinking it was night, and some fell down. And the Lord cried out, saying, "My power, the power you've left me." And when he said this, it was taken up. And that very hour, the veil of the temple in Jerusalem was torn in two. The Lord is buried. And then they drew the nails from the Lord's hands and placed him on the earth. And the whole earth was shaken, and great fear came. Then the sun shone, and it was found to be the 9th hour. And the Jews rejoiced and gave Joseph his body to bury, since he had seen all the good he had done. And having taken the Lord, he washed him and wrapped him in linen and brought him into his own tomb, which was known as Joseph's garden. People react. Then the Jews, the elders, and the priests, knowing how much wrong they had done to themselves, began to mourn and say, "Woe to our sins! The judgment and the end of Jerusalem is near." But I, with my companions, was grieved, and being wounded in mind, we were hiding, because we were being sought by them as wrongdoers, and as wanting to burn the temple. On the top of all this, we were fasting, sitting, mourning, and weeping night and day until the Sabbath. The tomb is secured, and the scribes, the Pharisees, and the elders gathered together with one another, having heard that all the people were grumbling, beating their chests, and saying, "If at his death these greatest signs have happened, see how just he was." The elders were afraid and went to Pilate, begging him and saying, "Give us soldiers, that we may guard his grave for 3 days, lest his disciples come and steal him, and the people think that he rose from the dead and do us wrong." And Pilate gave him Petronius, the centurion, with soldiers to guard the tomb. And elders and scribes went with them to the grave. And having rolled a great stone to the centurion and the soldiers, all who were there placed it at the door of the grave. And they put 7 seals on it, and having pitched a tent there, they kept watch. Men descend from heaven. Now, when the morning of the Sabbath dawned, a crowd from Jerusalem and the surrounding countryside went that they might see the grave that had been sealed. But during the night, before the Lord's day dawned, while the soldiers were watching 2 by 2 as guards, there was a great voice in heaven, and they saw the heavens being opened, and 2 men descended from there, having much radiance, and they approached the tomb. But that stone which had been placed at the door rolled away by itself, and made way in part, and the tomb was opened, and both the young men went in. Emerging from the tomb, then those soldiers, seeing it, woke up the centurion and the elders, because they were there too, keeping guard. And while they were explaining to them what they saw, again they saw 3 men coming out of the tomb, with the 2 supporting the one, and a cross following them. And the heads of the 2 reached as far as heaven, but that of the one being led by them reached beyond the heavens. And then they heard a voice from the heavens saying, "Have you proclaimed to those who sleep?" And a response was heard from the cross, "Yes." Reporting to Pilate. Then those men decided to go with each other and report these things to Pilate. And while they were still considering, again, the heavens were seen being opened, and a certain man descended and went into the grave. Having seen these things, those with the centurion hurried by night to Pilate, having left the tomb they were watching, and described all that they saw, being greatly distressed, and saying, "Truly, he was the Son of God." In response, Pilate said, "I'm clean of the blood of the Son of God, and this is clear to us." Then all who came were begging him and encouraging him to command the centurion and the soldiers to say nothing about what they saw. "It's better for us," they said, "to be guilty of a great sin in front of God than to fall into the hands of the Jewish people and be stoned." Okay, so Pilate commanded the centurion and the soldiers to say nothing. Mary Magdalene goes to the tomb. Now at dawn on the Lord's day, Mary Magdalene, a disciple of the Lord, afraid because of the Jews, since they were inflamed by anger, had not done at the Lord's grave what women are accustomed to do for their loved ones who've died. Taking her friends with her, she went to the grave where he was laid, and they were afraid lest the Jews might see them, and were saying, "If on the day he was crucified we weren't able to weep and mourn, even now we might do this on his grave. But who will roll away for us the stone that has been placed at the door of the grave, so that we might go in, sit by him, and do our duties? Because the stone is great, and we're afraid lest someone sees us, and if we aren't able, at least let's place at the door what we're bringing in memory of him, and we'll weep and mourn until we return to our house." Encounter at the tomb. And having gone, they found the tomb had been opened. And having approached, they bent down and saw there a certain young man sitting in the middle of the tomb. He was beautiful, having clothed himself with a long, shining robe. He said to them, "Why did you come? Whom do you seek? Not that one who was crucified. He arose and went away. But if you don't believe, bend down and see where he was lying. That he's not there, because he arose and went to where he came from." Then the women were afraid and fled. The disciples depart. Now was the last day of the unleavened bread, and many people were leaving, returning to their houses. the festival being over. But we, the 12 disciples of the Lord, were weeping and grieving, and each of us grieving because of what had happened, returned home. But I, Simon Peter, and my brother Andrew, having taken our nets, went off to the sea. And with us was Levi, the son of Alphaeus, whom the Lord ellipsed. And that's where it ends for the Gospel of Peter, guys. So many questions. Who were the two people? Like, they say they're an angel. I have a theory that it was Jesus' brother Adam, because Adam and Eve technically were God's first children. And then Jesus is his third child. But Jesus is part of the triune, like the Trinity. So like it's part of the Holy Family. So anyway, so that's my theory. It's an angel and Adam, but I don't know. Okay, so questions for when we die, guys. I have so many. I literally am gonna have like a notebook full of stuff when I get to heaven. I'm gonna be like, God, I have all these questions. Okay, all right, guys. So that is it today. There are a bunch more. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. About 9 more different gospels, lost books of the Bible. I was gonna look at this, you guys, real quick. Where was this information now? Okay, so I did look up, like, how do I get to the? Do you just go to sacred texts, forgotten books of Eden? So it's got to be bib. No, this is still the forgotten. Nope, it's loading. Slowly loading. Okay, so I looked up a bunch of different sources, and they were showing. Oh shoot, this took me too far back now. Or did it? Features, hypertext. Oh brother, that's not good. Yeah, I don't know how to navigate this. Okay, biography of the Bible, complete sayings as useful as scriptures. How do I get here? Okay, so there are the forgotten books, and there are the lost books. So forgotten books of Eden and the lost books of the Bible. And so I thought that this page that I've been reading were the lost books of the Bible, but technically there's a whole new list of the lost books of the Bible, guys. So I was led astray, and technically allowed you astray with misinformation. So we're gonna have like a whole new set of books to read, basically. Because these are completely different than the ones that I was reading you. So like there's here, let me go to the welcome page. Maybe this explains it better. Okay, so this gospels.net that I thought were the lost books of the Bible is actually not the lost books of the Bible. This is like a whole other thing. This website is dedicated to extracanonical gospels, early Christian gospels which weren't included in the New Testament. So the lost books are technically something different. And these are technically, so I have to like go in and edit all these to change them to extracanonical gospels. So yeah, so I apologize, guys. These are not the lost books of the Bible. These are technically extracanonical gospels. So there is a set of lost books of the Bible, which I will start reading for you. But they're different. There's the Gospel of the Birth of Mary, the Protovangelion, the first Gospel of the Infancy of Jesus Christ, Thomas's Gospel of the Infancy of Jesus Christ, the Epistles of Jesus Christ, and Abgarius, King of Edessa, Gospel of Nicodemus, formerly called the Acts of Pontius Pilate, the Apostles' Creed, the Epistle of Paul the Apostle, and the Laodiceans. It's like the forgotten books of Eden are like Old Testament withholdings. But then there's like a whole other thing of withholdings with this extracanonical gospels. So like, I don't know. And then I was talking with this woman at St. Stanislaus Polish Catholic Church in Madeira last night at their mass, and she's telling me that she's telling me that Revelation is all like, what, I can't even think of the word right now. So it's not to be interpreted literally. And like there are so many theories of the book of Revelation. If you want to go through my Revelation series, I've covered a lot of different things, even to the point where I think I figured out what the 7 churches were. and that we are in the end times right now. But if you go through Revelation, there is some literal. There is some literal. I don't think it's 100% figurative. So I think some of it will happen. I think all of it will happen, actually, if it's not already happening in some figurative way. So I don't know. So I feel like I come up with more questions every time I solve something and come up with an answer or think I have an answer. It's just so many mysteries of God, guys. So many mysteries of God. No single sidewalk prophet, which is apparently what I am, not the prophetess of the Revelation after my jail experience. But like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, God told me dates that I'm gonna die, and he told me dates that I'm gonna go to heaven, like Enoch and Elijah. And then somebody said, no, don't listen to that, Chelsea. That's the devil. That's a demon. So like, I don't know, guys. It's really confusing. And after reading the forbidden books or the forgotten books of Eden and like seeing how difficult it is to tell the difference between God and the devil, and Adam had struggled with this, and Eve struggled with that, and like everyone struggles with that. He's that freaking good, guys. He is literally like a super villain. So like a crafty, manipulative, crazy super villain that can make you think God is talking to you when it's really a devil. So I don't know. I don't know when I'm gonna die. I don't know if I'm gonna go to heaven without dying. I don't know. And it keeps changing, and he keeps giving me new dates, and I want to believe that they're God, but I know that I could be wrong. I know that I could be being tempted. I could be being tricked. Like, and I know people who are faithful to God and who do try to follow his commands and do try to follow some religious purpose and have had spiritual experience and are chosen ones for some purpose or another, get tempted even more so. So I feel like I don't want to give you guys the wrong information ever. And I apologize if I ever do, or if anything I say, you're like, that's not true, she's a false prophet. Like, please tell me, like, please call me on that. Like, this is not true, Chelsea. Like, I've done research or whatever, or you're hearing a voice from God telling you that I'm a false prophet. Like, please tell me, because I don't want to be a false prophet. So like, I don't know. And so I just like, I'm trying to study the Bible, and I'm trying to study all of these missing pieces of the Bible, because when I was in jail, God told me that I'm supposed to write the love stories in the Bible, and they've already been written. So that was not God telling me that. That was like a confusion. Like, God wants me to tell the love stories of the Bible. He wants me to hunt and search all of these missing books, all these missing pieces, and explain this whole story, not just reading from the NIV, not just reading from the NRSA, not just reading from the lost books, or from reading for all of them, and telling the whole story as best as I possibly can from where I left off in the first place. So it will be someone else's mission to continue what I can't finish. I don't know how long this project is going to take me. I don't know how long I'm going to be on Earth. Like, honestly, I don't want to be here very long, because there's like literally World War III is like erupting over the world, and people are so freaking evil. And like, I just like, I don't want to be here. I want to go to heaven. So I want to believe that I'm going to go there sooner than later. But then another, and I'm not hearing voices. I'm not schizophrenic. It's either God or the devil or my own conscience, which I truly believe my conscience is God or the devil. Like, it's the angel or demon on your shoulder. It's God or the devil talking to you. And so like, I feel like anything that is good is God. Anything that is bad is the devil. But then there's like this gray area where like, you don't know. So like, I have a lot of don't knows. So I feel like when I'm being told to read these different things from the Bible and these lost books, I think that's God talking to me. But if I'm being told something that seems a little sketchy, or like, I question it, and then I pray and I say, God, I understand what's happening, and I have a clear path again. So like, so that helps. But there are a lot of things that are confusing to me that I'm still trying to figure out. And one of them when I was reading the book of Revelation, I had this voice, which was my voice. It wasn't like some weird dark voice or like I heard God's voice. Like I literally just hear my voice in my head talking, my conscience basically, but a voice alerting me that I will be one of the, because God did tell me in jail that I'm going to have some role in the revelation, which is awesome. And I'm excited about that. I do believe that was God. I don't believe that was the devil. But I think the roles that God has like explained to me, I feel like I keep getting pulled into like the devil's like twisting of what this is. Like God hasn't revealed 100% everything to me. And so the devil keeps jumping in my head and like trying to fill in the pieces while I'm trying to solve them and like work through it with me. And then I realize that that's not God, that's the devil. So like, so it's frustrating. And I don't know. So like when I was reading the Revelation and I got to the point where it said, like, I was like, is this my role? Is that my role? Am I supposed to be this person in the book of Revelation? Am I that person in the book of Revelation? And this